Hey y'all, this is Caitlin and welcome back to Crime Time. We are going to be covering the missing persons case of Jennifer Catcheway. Let's get into this video. This case is a missing persons case, so this means that the person still has not been found. Even though in this situation her family does presume that she has passed away, the case is still classified as missing, and there's still very much a search going on to find Jennifer, whether that be alive, but most likely to find her remains and bring them back home to her family where she belongs. I do want to put out a warning that this video is not made for children and it does cover some mature content. Now let's talk about Jennifer. Jennifer Catcheway was 18 years old. She had actually just turned 18 years old when this case starts to take place. She was a beautiful, bright, bubbly, family-going young woman, and all her friends and her parents, her brothers and sisters, they have nothing but love and adoration for Jennifer. Jennifer lived with her family in Winnipeg, Canada. She was a member of the Sconan First Nations tribe. She is sadly one of the thousands of murdered and missing indigenous women. And this case can be a little bit touchy on the subject. I hope to go further into the topic in another video so we can really just dive into the history of missing women, also known as MMIWG, missing and murdered indigenous women. But for now, that is a lot to cover. I really want to highlight Jennifer in this video and tell you guys about her story. Jennifer went missing on June 19th, 2008, and this was actually the day of her 18th birthday. So the last information about where Jennifer was is a little bit blurry, but I want to go ahead and start at the beginning, the last time we heard from Jennifer. So the time that Jennifer went missing, it's unclear if, I couldn't find it in my research, it's unclear if it was the day before her birthday, her 18th birthday on June 19th, or if it was the day before. I'm assuming the day before. Jennifer often visited her parents' house, and on this day, I'm again assuming the day before her birthday on June 19th, so June 18th, she left a note, a handwritten note, which she often did for her family members and friends whenever she needed to let them know something. The note read, "Gone to see my cousin, be back later, love you, put my ice cream in the fridge, and I'll have it when I get back." So with that note, we would assume she had planned on coming back sooner rather than later. And she didn't end up seeing her family that evening, and they just assumed, okay, she's out with her cousin, we'll see her tomorrow on her birthday. They had planned a big family barbecue, much like my family would do to celebrate. Everybody comes over, they had steaks ready, all the food ready to go. And June 19th on her birthday, the day came around, but Jennifer didn't show up to her birthday party. Her family was a little bit concerned, but again, it was her 18th birthday. She was finally a real adult. They thought maybe she ended up staying out with her friends and had other plans. It was a little curious to them, but they didn't want to be too worried about the situation. I'd also like to mention that on the day of her birthday, she had called her mom around noon and told her, "I'll be back later tonight and I'll see you soon." But again, she never showed. When her mom got this call, she assumed Jennifer was where her cousin was staying and her uncle in Portridge La Prairie. But later we'll find out that that's actually not where she was on her birthday. So after 3 days, her parents were understandably worried. Her mother, Bernice, and her dad, Wilfred, had contacted the police. Her mom reports that when she went to the police station, they didn't really seem to care. They thought she was just out on a drunk, which is like a drunk bender. She was celebrating her birthday, and they really just dismissed it. But it had been 3 days since her birthday, so there was obviously reason to worry. From this point on, the RCMP and the relationship with Jennifer's parents continued to grow distant. The police department was not doing much to help, and of course her parents, Wilfred and Bernice, went into action.
She wouldn't just leave us like that. We loved her and she loved us, and she wouldn't just leave.
And here's where the case really gets started, and that was led by both of Jennifer's parents, Bernice and Wilfred. So Bernice got a strange call from her maybe sister or father's sister. It was Jennifer's aunt, about the uncle that Jennifer was with. I'm not sure what was said in the call, but it really set an alarm. So after that call, things were really odd, and they knew something bad had happened to Jennifer. They didn't know what, but police later told them that the last call that Jennifer placed to her mother was actually from Grand Rapids, which is around a 5-hour drive away from where Jennifer's home was. And it turns out that they investigated this, and they did see some pictures of Jennifer at a party on the night before her birthday. And the last report was of her being seen getting into a truck. And this is the last known for sure place that people saw Jennifer, and there are photos and evidence to prove that she had been there. Sorry guys if you can hear some noise in the background. There did just start like a little rainstorm outside. So if you hear that, I'm sorry about that. I live on the top floor and it's a little bit loud. So 30 days after Jennifer had gone missing, her family went back to the RCMP police and questioned, like, do you have any interviews? Have you talked to anyone? They had reported that she had last been seen with Jennifer's uncle and her cousin. They hadn't interviewed them. Nothing had really been done. They hadn't started searches. They really just dismissed her case. From there on, Jennifer's family went full throttle on locating Jennifer. So more information came up that Jennifer's cousin and uncle, the last two that she was seen with, they were seen at the party as well, I believe, had dropped her off on a highway between Grand Rapids and Portage La Prairie. This highway is literally in the middle of nowhere, so I'm not sure why she would need to be dropped off there. There's no further explanation. We know nothing more about the cousin and uncle, just that they reported this. Eventually the police did arrest the two, but they were then released. So I just want to go over where we last knew Jennifer was. The day before her birthday, Jennifer had left the note for her parents. The evening of the 18th, so later that night, she was seen at a party, getting into a truck. The next morning, she had made contact with her parents to let them know she would be back, and we found out that call was made from Grand Rapids, which was quite a ways from where she was supposed to be. And after that, it's reported that her cousin and uncle left her on Highway 6, which is the place in between the two towns. So literally, like I said, farmland, water, that's it. There's nothing out there for her to go to. And the case there was nothing else coming forth at that point. Jennifer's parents, Wilfred and Bernice, have done so much work on this case. They've led the case entirely. The father, Wilfred, he has thousands of recorded videotapes, interviews to get information. They have rented excavators, which dig up dirt, and they have searched many places for her remains, is where they're thinking. A lot of them have been tips that have been called in, sent to Bernice, and 2 times a year they hold a big search party where they go and many members of the community come forth and everybody searches the dirt. This is very sad, you guys. They've run through tons of burn piles and trash piles. They've had dogs out searching, canoe searching, and this has been a 30-year search. They have not stopped. They've remained resilient and just really trying to bring their daughter home.
About Jennifer, every day I think, what happened, where, when, how, all these questions.
I wish things could have been different. She would have had a chance to maybe have a family, be married, because she would have been 28 now.
There's a quote that Bernice Catcheway says in one of her interviews that goes, "Somebody took her, somebody stole her." And that really just breaks my heart. Honestly, when you see this family, you've seen in some interviews that I'll show, I couldn't imagine losing your child and not being able to bring them home. And they really stay strong. They stay together. Every year they do searches, they do fundraisers, and they just want her home. In one of the interviews, she talks about, I know it's sad we're here in a dump, but I'd rather find her here than not find her at all. Her father, Wilfred, has had 2 heart attacks since everything has happened, and he quit his job to fully dedicate himself to the investigation of his daughter. And honestly, I don't want to get emotional, but just seeing her father and his plea and his strength, both of them. But the father Wilfred reminds me so much of my own father when seeing the videos of him, and you could see his heart breaking, and it's just, it really makes you want to continue the search for Jennifer and bring her home to her family. Now, the relationship with the RCMP, I believe that's the Royal Canadian Police, has not been good. In the 13 years, they haven't contacted Jennifer's family. Bernice goes on and says she doesn't even know who the detectives are anymore on the case because they have changed, and they don't know who the detectives even are or even got a notification of this. Now, the RCMP does report that they have reached out and that they are still very much keeping this case open and trying to bring Jennifer home. But I honestly just don't believe the resources have been there to help Jennifer. The action was very late in response, and again, there is very deep-rooted, as a lot of us know, systematic racism and prejudices within the indigenous community and police departments, as well as that goes on to schools, workplaces, prison systems. And though it has gotten better in the last few years with some movements, it's still a huge issue. Jennifer's mom mentions that the RCMP had started rumors that Jennifer had started experimenting with cocaine before her disappearance. And Bernice very much says this is not the type of person Jennifer was. The police are trying to stereotype her, portray her as a quote unquote of Bernice, a street person, and just someone experimenting with drugs, which she was not. Jennifer was a beautiful young lady, as you can see from the photos. She loved her family so much. She, at the time, lived down the street from her parents and with her boyfriend. She worked at A&W, and she just was a nice young lady who had bright hopes. At this time, Jennifer would be around the age of 30. She could have a family. She would have been, starting her life, really. With the investigation of Jennifer's parents, they had gotten some notices, some anonymous letters that actually Jennifer might have been seen at the Dakota Nation TP area. It's reported that she was maybe seen at a party there on the day of her birthday, and actually some people even reported hearing screams that morning. So after this news, Jennifer's family went to the Dakota Nation, the Dakota TP Nation, and asked to search the land for Jennifer. And the community over at Dakota TP was really behind this. The chief agreed.
Up north, Grand Rapids, Duck Bay, the story is led back to Dakota TP. And that's why we're here. Just as long as it takes.
At some point there was some conflict because the chief felt like a lot of damage was being done to his community, to the land, and he stopped the search. This built a little bit of tension, but within that time period, they said, no, you can come back and search on our land, because the community said, why are you not letting them search anymore? Like, a lot of the moms were saying, if this was our children, we would do everything to get them back. But it ended up nothing came from this. It is curious though that there were so many rumors that she was last seen here. This location, the Dakota Teepee Nation, is 10 minutes from Jennifer's home, so it's very close. Though there still are many rumors that they found 2 men burning clothes in the area. Again, the screams the morning of Jennifer's disappearance, and the fact that sometimes people get drunk and they say things, that has all been leaked back to the family, and it seems that there would be some connection there. It did not pull up anything to further help the investigation that we know of. Jennifer's mom has said that she doesn't want to report so much in the news, and she's keeping a lot of the information she has to herself because she believes that somebody in the community or within the tribe knows something or did something, even a family member, and she does not want the information getting back to them. She wants to keep this close so that they can use it later in the investigation if needed. Now, the latest in this case was in 2020. There was a slight break in the situation.
2:40 in the afternoon. We were given an anonymous letter, a map. Somebody drew us a map for an exact location, and we're here for exact location, and there's nothing. We have a couple hours left of daylight, so we're gonna keep looking. This is very hard. This is no joke, people. This is not a joke. It's not funny. The snow is there's a storm coming, and we need to find Jennifer. We looked according to the map. We followed the map. We followed to the exact location, and we're here. There's nothing here. But we'll keep looking. We'll keep looking. It's sad. It's very sad.
And nothing was found. That's the latest information I have on this case. I want to go ahead and talk about maybe suspects or theories that I have. I cannot deny that the uncle and the cousin look really guilty. The uncle at the time was 38, the cousin was 28. They're not sure why she went with them. Maybe it was the idea of this party. She didn't want to tell her parents she was going to a party on the 18th. And why they went to Grand Rapids, which was so far away. Like, that's such a long drive to get there. That why would you do that in a day just to go to a party? And then why would they leave her on the side of Highway 6? After Jennifer's disappearance, they never reported anything to the family, to the police. They never said, we were the last ones with her, we dropped her off here, until later in the investigation. That's extremely suspicious. If you had nothing to do with the case and you were really worried about her, why wouldn't you give all the information you could to her family? A year later, after Jennifer went missing, her uncle was actually found murdered. There's not much information in that as well. Guys, I don't understand how I'm looking up this information and I can't find anything on the uncle and cousin. But those are the details I do have on them. And again, they had the cousin has not spoken up or said anything to the family since then. I also believe that there has to be some truth to what happened in the Dakota Teepee First Nation, because to this day there are still rumors going around that that's the last place Jennifer was, and they truly believe that somewhere in that area is when something bad happened to Jennifer. I also have some belief in this, because if not, then the rumors would be stopped, because it doesn't shed the best light on the community for the Dakota Teepee First Nation. It also does not speak for their community either. Besides these rumors, the Dakota First Nation has been extremely helpful and really supportive of Bernice and Wilfred's search for Jennifer. One of my theories is that it's possible Okay, the first theory that the cousin and uncle did something to Jennifer. There's another suspicion because in Grand Rapids, Jennifer's uncle had rented a cabin on the 19th, the day of Jennifer's birthday. And he rented it on the 21st, but the 20th, there's no records of him renting the cabin. I have no clue why he would do that, and I've been trying to rack my brain around like what could have made him do this and ties into Jennifer's disappearance. Like maybe he did something the 19th, but why would he leave the cabin and where did he stay on the 20th? And then why did he also come back? It's very curious to me. So first theory is that they did something to Jennifer and they disposed of her body somewhere. My second theory is it's possible that Jennifer had made plans with somebody to pick her up on the side of the highway. They haven't had any mentions of Jennifer having a phone, a cell phone. It was 2008, and at this time, you would assume she had a phone, but maybe something happened to it, or they just haven't said anything really about her having a cell phone. So my second theory plays into the fact that she maybe had planned for somebody to pick her up on Highway 6 and meet them up, go to a party in the Dakota Teepee Nations, and that's why she was last seen there, because it is in between. So we have Grand Rapids, Highway 6 where they dropped her off, and 10 minutes away from Jennifer's home is the Dakota Teepee First Nation. So it is possible she had made plans with somebody to drop her off, to pick her up there and then take her to the party. But again, there's no evidence that she made it to the party or that she was seen. Specifically, there's no photos or pure evidence that that's the last place she was seen. But my thoughts are maybe she got picked up, went there, and she had planned to go home later in the evening. But it's just so sad and confusing. Those are the two only theories I can think of. I don't know why she would be dropped off on Highway 6. It's just extremely odd that that would happen and that her cousin and uncle left her there knowing that it was the middle of nowhere. And if they didn't have anything to do with it, why wouldn't they come forward with more information at the time? When Jennifer went missing, she was last seen wearing a green and white striped top. She also has identifiers a JC tattoo on her left ankle and a on her left hand. She had medium to long brown hair. She was around 5 feet 7 inches and she had brown hazel eyes. She weighed around 160 pounds. And this was the last information they had on her when she went missing. I just truly hope that Jennifer Catcheway's family can find peace and they find their daughter and they bring her home. It's been around 13 years now since Jennifer went missing. She was 18 years old and she had such a bright future and a family and friends who loved her dearly. She was ready to celebrate her birthday. She was really happy. And it's just very sad that her case, there was a possibility that her case could have been quickly and easily solved, or that more information could have came forward if the police would have done their job in the first place. Down below, I'll leave all of the information to report any tips or details that someone might have on Jennifer Catcheway, as well as resources on the missing and murdered Indigenous women's movement recently and in the last few years, which is very important, and I hope to really soon do another video specifically on the case of missing murdered Indigenous women and what the movement has been and why. Okay, you guys, that's all I have on this case today. I really hope you, please leave your theories below, because I am so curious, what do you think could have happened? Because it's very suspicious. There's been so many rumors and details added. And if you are someone who likes research and you can find any more information on this case, please let me know or email to me or post it below, because it's very hard to find the details for this. There's just not much out there, and usually I can deep dive further in, but this case is quite short because it's just a lot of searching for Jennifer and trying to get her back to her family. Don't forget to comment, subscribe, leave a like if you want to ever join my lives or know when I'm going to be posting, hit the notification bell. And it's a little bell down there next to subscribe, and it lets you know what I'm doing and when I'm going to be doing it. Thank you all for the love. I have my new room here. I am currently trying to update it, make it a little cute or whatever. I have my little background, but I am burning up. It's so hot in here. My next step is to get a fan for this room. But yeah, guys, look forward to staying connected. Remember, stay safe, be kind, spread love. Bye.